that that comes all the way out.
Yeah, it comes all the way out. More stuff following us home, like always, and marking its territory on the trailer. So, all right, let's get it off. We'll talk more about it in the daylight. Ignore the messy hair, it's a lazy Saturday, but I failed to mention something at the start of this video, so I'm putting it in here now. You see the car on the trailer. We drove to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to purchase this car the other day after being tagged in it multiple times in a GM Facebook group that I'm involved with. I was the closest one to it, so it seemed. Cash money, no questions asked. Car supposedly had a bad transmission. He had it for 4 or 5 years, something like that. It was his in-laws, his aunt, his wife's aunt. Her and her husband had purchased the car new in Winston-Salem and had it ever since. He got it just 4 years prior to me getting it and drove it every day up until the transmission quit. So I paid $300 for the car, drove over there, picked it up, brought it back over home, just an hour or so away. And yeah, and so now the rest of this video will make more sense since for some reason I failed to do any kind of intro on it to let you guys know what it was. But it's 85 Chevrolet Cavalier 4-door, 2-liter automatic. And besides him, it'd be, you know, now it's a 2-owner car and all original documentation. So there's some insight for you. Yeah, so I know there's generator noise. I don't have power connected to the building yet or a drop cord long enough, so just deal with it for a minute. It's off the trailer. I did actually get it to move more in reverse than drive. Thought, let me check the fluid. I noticed on the trailer it was dumping ATF, and it's actually dumping ATF already. The cooler lines that are down here, you can kind of see the hose clamp right there. It's wet. All of it's wet. The line's wet and it's super crusty. Let's get under the car. You'll see what I'm talking about. This line here is just rotted, saturated, and profusely leaking. I had to put the catch pan under it because it was just pouring. That fitting looks a little wet too. It's not horrible, but most of it you can even see is dripping off of these lines. You see the scales in it? They're just destroyed. Filling definitely my inner pole barn garage, laying on the dirt. So as you can see, we've got our 4 cooler lines now disconnected. Good stuff. I'm just gonna wipe these off with a rag, call it good enough. And I even salvaged the hose clamps. They weren't bad. Hit them with a brake parts cleaner wash. And there's the old nasty fluid coming out. It does not look pretty, but I think it's gonna work. And that line doesn't feel loose, so maybe it's just, I don't know. We'll deal with that here later. These were leaking the most. New lines are in. Reused them hose clamps. Got everything cranked back on there. Looking pretty good. So now we gotta get it back kind of level. Fire this thing up. 1, see if it leaks. 2, check the fluid level. In case you wondered, only the finest red for the Cavalier, the Universal Dextron. It's a GM, it's a turbo hydromatic 125 transmission that's in it, and it'll just break this stuff right up. As long as it's not puking it all out on the damn ground. Which it doesn't appear to be doing anymore. Here we go. Hard shift into drive, but it went. Oh, it is going forward. I don't know if it's got any gears other than one, but it is moving. There's a cat. These gauges are brighter than my hatch. The suspension's really quiet. My hatch is super noisy. Let's go up the street, so if it does conk out, it can roll back down the street. Oh. There's 1 to 2. We don't have a speedometer. 2 to 3. The speedometer don't work though. That sucks. Ooh, slow down. I don't want to turn around up there. Let's put it in reverse. Got some definite valve train noise. Sounds like it might need some timing thrown at it. Still a hard shifting to drive. Oh, she's pulling. There's 3. It might be a liver. It's not a pancreas or a kidney, but it is definitely a liver. Got high beams? We got high beams. Oh, and the high beam indicator works. Oh, and the check engine light works. That's great. Well, we've taken it on a nice little ride up and down the street. It still seems to be doing just as fine as ever. I've been waiting to see if the fan's gonna come on. Cooling fan hasn't kicked on yet. This one doesn't have the temp gauge option. It's got the dummy light, which is right here. And let's see, if you cycle the key off, where you can see it, turn the key on, and then when you go to start, see the temp light comes on and goes out. So if the engine, essentially, if it's getting over temp, the light should come on if the sensor and stuff works. Normally, if the sensors don't work, it just defaults to the light being on. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Look at that. Fan is running. Look at that. It literally all works. Even the fan relay doesn't work right on my hatch. That is, I couldn't be happier. We've got some noisy belts. Got a valve cover leak. Definitely needs an oil change, probably a tune-up. It's got some valve rattle in it. Probably need to play with that timing. And the fan cycles off. But the transmission was still shifting, and because the fan kicked on and off, that meant we were up to temperature. So she's doing what she's supposed to be doing. The speedometer doesn't work. We got to address that. And some motor mounts. God, it slams into drive pretty hard, and something over here on this side is just moving. So I'm assuming the mount down here is just destroyed. So we'll just probably order a whole set of motor mounts and change them all. Oh, but I'm excited. Here in the car, you know, the speedometer didn't work when we drove it. I got to talking with my buddy Aaron in Wisconsin, Aaron in Wisconsin, and we were talking about the speedometer and stuff. We came to a startling revelation. Apparently, there is like a sensor inside the speedometer that sends a signal when a certain speed is reached, and that is going to actuate the torque converter lockup. Because these are very, very basic cars. There's hardly any computerization to them. And I don't remember what he said. He'd think it was called an IRF or IFR, some kind of sensor in the cluster that actually recognizes the speed in which it can lock up, because you have no way to disengage or engage it any other way. And these cars don't have ABS, so there's no wheel speed sensor to read off of. And there's no ABS sensor. It just reads off the signal from, I guess, once again, the speed sensor, but it doesn't read on the speed sensor side on the transmission. Apparently, it reads off the cluster side. So what we're going to do now is pull this cluster out. You got to be careful with these. This plastic will break. And as you can see right here, we've got a crack forming. And I think I saw another one. Maybe not. But you have to be very careful, because these things will break right here in the middle where the plastic is super thin. But you can get it out without dropping the column. So that's what I'm going to do now. In the car, got it running. Cluster is out. Here's the back of the cluster. Here's the little gear where the cable slides into. You see this is spinning. and I can't move the cluster too far. This is the wiring for the sensor that we were talking about, the IFS, IP, whatever it was we called it. It registers when the car is in motion at a speed where the torque converter could lock up. You can see I can actually get the speedometer to jump and move around. But now what we're gonna do, we're gonna drive this thing up the road and see if this gear rotates. It's moving, but it doesn't look super smooth. Nah, it's jerking bad. I'm gonna try to put my finger on it and see if I can stop it from spinning. I can't stop it. It is still moving, but it doesn't feel great. So that cable could be stretched or broken. The gear on the transmission could have a messed up tooth. Oh, I just stopped it. Yep, now it's going again. Yeah, I can stop it dead in its tracks. I don't know if you can see it or not. Oop, hold on, let's see. Not moving, moving. Not moving. Yeah, now it's definitely not. There it goes again, it's moving. Looks like we're gonna need a speedometer cable. In my hand is the speedometer cable. So anyway, I pulled this out mostly so we could measure it and figure out what length we had so I could order a replacement on Rock Auto, and I quickly realized it was not damaged. Little plastic gear is in good shape on the end. It hasn't broken off. That was another thing we suspected. Now on this end, you can see it's got a little wave to it. Well, that thing was bent really bad. I mean, it was like folded over almost. I don't know why, but it was. So I took it down to the shop, straightened it out the best that I could. And I got some Freon. We're gonna soak this cable down, slide it in and out a whole bunch of times, and try putting it back together. Maybe that'll work, maybe it won't. I'm kind of banking on, it looks like it needs a speedometer gear. Cluster is reinstalled. If you've never put one of these in, consider yourself lucky. So the electrical connector that's behind it over here doesn't plug in. It just, the pressure of the cluster being screwed down kind of holds the two connectors together. But getting that speedometer cable back in can be a bear. And the best thing to do is to pull the cable, give you some slack, pull it out the firewall beside the booster, get the cluster lined up, and then go in from the bottom and try to push it back up on there. It just snaps in place. Easier to get off than it is to get on. All that still works. Let's go down the road and see if it registers. Just drove it down the road and it started to work for about 30 seconds and I didn't get up over about 20 miles an hour and it stopped. So I think what we're gonna do is maybe tomorrow on the way home from work, if the weather's not bad, I'm gonna stop and grab the gear assembly off the transmission and the cable out of my wagon. And I'm kind of thinking that's gotta be what it is. I don't see it being the cluster because I can run it up by hand just fine. So we'll grab the gear and the cable and try again. It's now been another day. This morning at work, I grabbed this gear governor assembly off of one of the parts cars. I didn't take a video of it. I got a picture of the car. I'll throw it in right here. So here's the governor that came out of that car. You can see that top part is just kind of loose. It doesn't fit on there near as tight as this one does. I don't know if it's supposed to. I'm not familiar with this setup. I also, as you can see, grabbed the gear drive out of it. This one, I mean, it looks fine. All the teeth look fine.
but the one in the car also looked okay. I just bolted it back in there last night just so no moisture would get in it so that I could move it. I did not get the cable because you got to pull the cluster to get the cable unhooked, and I was not about to go through that mess today. So my plan is to put this gear, or this top cover on with this gear assembly, and that should take care of our issue we were having. So in case I didn't mention it, you know, that gear is stripped out. You can see it's kind of, what was that, concave? Yeah, convex I think goes up, concave goes in. It's kind of concave, whereas this one is flat. That's because all the teeth are still in good shape across the center, while this one is ruined. So we're just going to swap this whole, and this is a governor assembly is what this is called. Governor speedometer drive. So we're going to throw this unit in here with the cap, both of these from the donor car. Reason for using the cap from the donor car, inside there, if you look ever so closely at the center portion of those teeth, they're also slightly wore out, just a touch, and because it's all like a nylon plastic, and the other set of gears looked so good, it just made more sense to go ahead and swap the cap. And what I'll do is I'm going to put this governor assembly up somewhere, and I'm going to put this housing back on the car at work just to keep moisture from getting in that transmission, because it's a good transmission should I end up having to have it for this. Here we go, here's reverse. Went down, let's see if it goes up. Huh? It's reading. Let's see. Still didn't feel a shift into the torque converter lockup. Let's see. There's first gear, second gear. There it is. There's fourth. That's it. It's got them all. It's not technically a fourth gear, it's an overdrive. But that was it. Well, it works. Works good, actually. Oh, I'm very, very, very happy about that. This should be second gear. I might have stayed in lockup. I think it did. I think it stayed in lockup. Nope, there's lockup. Beautiful evening for a stroll. Did not ask for more. Sweet. Let's put a couple miles on it and take it back to the house. Saturday morning update. We're still rocking the car. The transmission has not blown up yet. Didn't get to do as much driving in it the other night as I was hoping to. So today we're taking the trash off in it. So far, so good, except I can't turn the wipers on because the rubber part of this wiper is pretty much gone, and it's just the metal frame grinding against the glass. And I noticed the other night that it had this line that you can vaguely see right here in the window, and that's from where they just kind of let it chew into the glass. So that's probably permanently there. I've never found a great way to get those little scratches out. If somebody knows a way to do so, please feel free to leave me a comment. Yeah, so we're taking the trash off, and it's cold, raining this morning. The car's doing just great. I did notice, and maybe it's just coincidence, but since we fixed that speedometer and the torque converter started locking up, I haven't gotten a check engine light again. It would kind of just come on and go off as it felt the need to. So far, it has not came on again. I don't know if it was related to the torque converter lockup or what, but don't know. So, I'd say that mission was a success. Trash is taken off. Now maybe let's go see about finding some wiper blades. Wanted to take one more second before I finish up this video here. So I was going through the glove box. The latch is broke. No big deal. I can fix that. In the glove box, we had the original, or I guess not original, but a 84 and 85 North Carolina transportation map. Thought that was pretty neat. You know, it's got a bunch of information on about our parkway and stuff like that. We also had the owner's manual. I'm not going to show the front of these, but both of these are the original. I could probably cover it up. Are the original Chevrolet owner cards that they would have gave you. These are hard plastic cards that have all the information of the car and you as the person that bought it. And then this is my favorite thing so far. Check out this. This is the key tag that would have been on this set of keys when this car was new. 1985, marked as new, Chevy Cavalier beige. What in the world? I've seen people keep a lot of things from a car, but to have the original little cardboard cutout key tag. I've also got a manila folder. Let's see if I can show. Yeah, I've got a manila folder from the dealership. It was sold new at Modern Chevrolet, which is what matches all the paperwork and the stickers on the car, in 1985. This is the original manila folder that was given to the customer or shipped to the customer after they purchased it. With I've got the whole build sheet, the inspection sticker from the dealership, a copy of the check that they wrote for the car. They traded in a 1969 four-door Impala. I mean, I have every piece of information on this car, down to tires, the replacement mufflers it's had, oil changes, you name it. I have every documented, like anytime you could have got a receipt when purchasing something, it's in here. How cool is that? When else are you going to find this much documentation on a throwaway car, you know? I'm sure if we go back over to Modern Chevrolet, they would be astonished that somebody is still operating this car on the roads and has all of this paperwork with it too. So maybe in the future here, once the weather decides to cooperate, we need to try to fix that little dent right there on the bottom of the front fender. We need to wash it, of course. It's dirty, there's brake dust. The wheels are still silver, like the rears are just covered in brake dust and soot on the front. I need to get all my greasy paw prints off of it because I left some around the hood area. It happens. It's a very light colored car. I mean, what can you do? But overall, I am thoroughly impressed with our $300 purchase. It's time to make some decisions on how far we want to go fixing this thing up. Like I said, I'd still want to keep putting some miles on it before we do too much. to make sure that transmission is going to hold up, because if it's going to need a transmission replacement, which is completely fine with me, it's a fairly big overhaul, and we need to get that out of the way first. But if this transmission, you know, if we can put another 300 or 400 miles on it, everything seems to be okay. Let's move forward fixing some other things, putting the rearview mirror back on the windshield, wiper blades, fixing that dent, valve cover gaskets, a tune-up, check the timing, go through the brakes, stuff like that, just to make it truly, you know, mechanically sound front to back. And we need to go through the interior, shampoo, clean. Like I said, I guess one of them was a smoker at one point, because it still smells like lingering cigarette in there. So we need to get that addressed. I don't want to smell that. But still, 2 thumbs up, super happy. So drop a comment down below and let me know what you think, folks. This one's kind of oddball, but gotta love them. So thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all in the next one.